that this is on the sea. Also on the way back, another incident happened, and that is that they ran out of water again, and the Prophet made dua for rain. So that night it rained and it poured. And in the morning, the Prophet after Fajr gave a famous talk, and it is recorded in Bukhari and others, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the Hadith Qudsi, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, some of my servants woke up this morning believing in me, and some of my servants have rejected me. How so? What happened? So some of the hypocrites had made fun of this, or not made fun of, they had they had said this isn't a miracle. That's what I should say. That the Prophet made dua, the rain came, they said this is not a miracle. What did they say? They said, oh, this is because of the blessings of such and such a star. Now they had back then some type of superstitious zodiac type of connection, that on this day this star, on this day that star, so they had that type of thing. So it happened to be on the day of a particular star, and they would expect that some good luck would come from that star. You know, so to this day we have the zodiac signs. They had their version of it, and that version was that if it is a particular time of the month, then a star will be able to benefit or something. So one of the Munafiqun said, oh, it rained because we're in the time frame of that star. Muttirna bi naw'i kada. That's what the note is, what the good luck would have. And so he said this to ridicule or to trivialize the fact that it was a miracle. And so at Salat al-Fajr, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has told me that he said that today morning some of you woke up believing in me and others woke up rejecting me. As for those who said rain has fallen because of Allah, they are believers in me. And as for those who said rain has fallen because we are in the time or the zodiac sign of this and that, then they are believers in the stars, rejectors of me. And this hadith is a very important hadith of theology. We talk about it in theology a lot, because this shows us we do not ascribe blessings to other than Allah. And if we ascribe independent blessings to other than Allah, this is major shirk. To believe that a star will give you your rizq, obviously. Or to believe that a stone is good luck, charm, good luck charm, right? To wear a talisman, an amulet, and say, oh, this will protect me. All of this goes under this issue of good luck and bad luck, right? And every culture and society has these types of charms and rituals and symbols and whatnot, and we don't believe in any of that stuff, obviously. For those who do believe in this stuff, this hadith shows us believing in charms and amulets and good luck and bad luck, this is disbelieving in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rejecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And literally the hadith says, kafirun bi mu'minun bil kawakib. If you think the rain has fallen, or if you think this good luck ring or charm has protected you from an accident, right? What are you doing other than making this rock or stone into a type of idol? This is exactly what it is. And we don't believe in this. Now, I have to just point out here, if what you're wearing is Qur'an, then the scholars have differed about this, whether it's jaiz or not. And it cannot be shirk, because the Qur'an is the speech of Allah and it's not separate from Allah. But some of the scholars have simply said it's not appropriate to wear the Qur'an out of respect. But nobody said that it is not allowed theologically. It's a question of respecting the Qur'an. As for seeking refuge in the Qur'an, yes, you may seek refuge in the Qur'an, because the Qur'an is the speech of Allah, and the speech of Allah is an attribute of Allah. So having the Qur'an in the car, in the glove compartment, or dangling Ayatul Kursi from the back view mirror, for example, thinking that some barakah will come, this is not the same as a good luck charm. Essentially, it is allowed to seek barakah from the Qur'an. But practically speaking, some scholars have said you are showing disrespect by just putting in the glove compartment with all of your other things over there, right? So the issue is not of theology, it is of fiqh in this sense. You see the point here, right? The Qur'an cannot be equated with any other charm, because the Qur'an is the kalamullah. It is speech of Allah, and therefore those hadith don't apply to the Qur'an. However, in our times you have all of these symbols and icons horseshoe, or I mean, what is it? Rabbits, for these types of things, that type of stuff. This is what would apply to these hadith. In any case, so this hadith also occurs in the incident of Tabuk. On the way back, another incident occurred. So the Munafiqun are getting irritated. There were some hypocrites that took part in Tabuk. After all, there was 15,000, 20,000 people. Not all of them were of the elite of the Sahaba. Some of the Munafiqun did take part, and we find some of the stories here and there. So another incident of the Munafiqun took place, and that is that on the way back, the Prophet ﷺ's camel was not to be found. His camel disappeared, lost. So he sent the Sahaba out to go find his camel. And one of the hypocrites said, when they heard the news that the whole army has been delayed because the camel is lost, one of the Munafiqun said, Astaghfirullah, that this is a man who thinks he's a prophet, and he tells you that revelation comes from the heavens, and he doesn't even know where his camel is. La hawla quwwata illa billah. Okay, so he said this far away from the Prophet ﷺ, and it so happened that one of the people that shared the tent with him was with the Prophet ﷺ at the time. So you understand what's happening. This is the hypocrite far away, and obviously people are divided into groups, artilleries, regiments. Somebody from his regiment happens to be with the Prophet ﷺ at the time. So the Prophet ﷺ stands up and he says, some of you have said such and such. Now the man is on the other side of the army. Nobody has come to the Prophet ﷺ. Allah has told him, some of you have said such and such. And Wallahi, I am a bashar, I am a human. And I only know what Allah tells me. And Allah has just told me that my camel is stuck in such and such a valley, that its rein, its harness has caught a tree. So go get the camel. So the Sahaba went and they got the camel and they brought him back. So this man doesn't know that his regiment guy has said this. He comes back amazed and he says, you won't believe what just happened, basically, right? And he tells the whole story. One of the other people says, that was the guy who said it. You understand, right? That was the guy. So this Sahabi becomes so inflamed that he kicks him out and he says, you're not going to accompany me, ya adu wallah, ya enemy of Allah, you're not going to have anything to do with us. So he expelled him from the camp, from the army. And so this is another mini miracle that took place, that the Prophet, and this, by the way, really shows us, does the Prophet know ilm al-ghayb? He himself is telling us, I am just a human, and I only know what Allah has told me. And Allah has just told me that my camel is stuck in such and such a place, go get my camel. So this clearly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it shows us our Prophet does not know ilm al-ghayb other than what Allah tells him. And Allah Azza wa Jal has told him many things, and this is one of them that was mentioned. Another sad incident of the Munafiqun occurred as well. So these are three or four incidents of the Munafiqun that occurred, and the next one I'll mention is even more bizarre. After this one is even more bizarre. Another incident that really shows the reality of the Munafiqun, and for which Allah revealed verses that we recite to this day, is that a group of Munafiqun began laughing and joking too much beyond what was required, and they said statements that were completely inappropriate. One of them said that, here is the Prophet ﷺ telling us we will conquer Rome and Persia. Who does he think he is? We're going to get to Rome and Persia. This is, and if you really think about it, wallahi, this is a miracle, the likes of which we cannot understand. Yani the Sahaba, compared to the Roman Empire, compared to the Persian Empire, it is truly bizarre. I have said this many times here, that to this day, historians don't quite understand how the Sassanid Empire just disappeared within 5-10 years. I mean, they have their theories, but it's amazing. It's just a bizarre reality that after 500, 600, 700 years of being a superpower, within 5 years, the entire empire just fizzles out and it just disappears, and it becomes, an Islamic province, And then as for Rome as well, as we know, the Roman Empire was carved into half, and the better half was handed over, and the better half is basically Damascus and Jerusalem and all of these lands, and Alexandria. I mean, do you understand what Alexandria was? This was the capital of learning. in the world at the time. The largest library was in Alexandria, and this was the seat of so many Roman theologians and bishops and people of learning. And of course, Alexandria is now a part of Egypt. So all of this was literally handed to the Muslims by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not something that can be imagined by us. We take it for granted. Amr ibn al-As with 4,000 people, that's it, conquered the entire strip of northern Africa. It is truly, I mean, it's a miracle on any sense of human experience. So the Sahaba, the Munafiqun are mocking this, right? And for those who don't have iman, you understand why they're mocking it. We have iman, they don't have iman. They're like, he is telling us we're going to conquer Rome and Persia. How is that going to happen? And another one of them says something even worse, and he says that, look at these people around us. They recite the Qur'an, but they are, astaghfirullah, cowardly and fat in their bellies. Astaghfirullah, Billah. They said something very crude about the Sahaba, and this is all lies, of course, but they were mocking the Sahaba around them. And so one of the Sahaba overheard this bantering going on, and he said, "Kadhabta ya adu Allah, you're lying, O enemy of Allah. And I will tell the Prophet exactly about this statement of kufr. How dare you say this?" So he was at the back of the army. So he began galloping to get to the front of the army to tell the Prophet that there are people that are saying this. And by the time he got to the Prophet, the Prophet was already in wahi. That you could see his eyes were down, and there was this aura that the Sahaba knew wahi was happening. So when he rushed to tell the Prophet ﷺ, the Munafiq got terrified. And the Munafiq began galloping on his camel behind the Sahabi to try to make up some excuse before the Sahabi got there. So can you imagine the scene? The both of them are galloping on their camels, and the Prophet ﷺ is in the front of the army, and the wahi is coming down. And before the man could get, the Sahabi could get to the Prophet ﷺ and explain to him, the wahi finished, and the Prophet ﷺ began reciting what Allah had revealed. يَحْذَرُ الْمُنَافِقُونَ أَن تُنَزَّلَ عَلَيْهِمْ سُورَةٌ تُنَبِّئُهُم بِمَا فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. That the Munafiqun are terrified that Allah will reveal something that will expose what is in their heart. So he's reciting the tilawah. And the people that are running are not hearing what the Prophet is saying because they're rushing to get there. The Munafiq jumps off the camel because he wants to show remorse and he wants to be humble instead of coming on the camel. And he comes running to the Prophet ﷺ, and he thinks the Sahabi has told already. And so he blurts out what he's going to say. And as he blurts out what he's going to say, the Prophet ﷺ is reciting the Qur'an, and the Qur'an quotes him before he even speaks. Wallahi, the most amazing scene, right? وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ Hafiz Ab. وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ إِنَّمَا كُنَّا نَخُوضُ وَنَلْعَبُ. If you were to ask them why they are saying this, they would say, we're only laughing and having a good time. Just a joke, Ya Rasulullah. قُلْ أَبِاللَّهِ وَآيَاتِ وَرَسُولِهِ كُنْتُمْ تَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. Say, are you laughing and joking about Allah and His Messenger? You have nothing better to do than make jokes about Allah? This is what you do? لا تعتد. So the man, this is a beautiful story. Wallahi, it's an amazing story. That the man is running to the Prophet ﷺ, and he is saying, Ya Rasulullah, innama kunna nakhudu wa nal'ab. And as he's saying this, right, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, if you were to ask them, they would say, innama kunna nakhudu wa nal'ab. And without even looking at the man. And the Prophet ﷺ goes on, and Allah is saying, this is in the Qur'an, Surah Tawbah verse 66, you can read it up, look it up. In fact, we will look it up next week inshallah. Look it up and we'll look it up again. That Allah says, لا تعتذروا. Don't give me your excuses. لا تعتذروا. قد كفرتم بعد إيمانكم. You have committed kufr after your iman. And the Sahabi said, I saw this Munafiq running behind the camel, because he's on the camel and then now the guy's on his foot, running behind the camel of the Prophet ﷺ, holding on to the stirrup. Now the camel is a tall animal, and to hold on to the stirrup, and he's being dragged by the camel. And the Prophet ﷺ would not even look at him. And he was just keep on repeating, لا تعتذروا قد كفرتم بعد إيمانكم. Don't give me your excuse. This is in the Qur'an. We're in the Qur'an. Don't give me your excuses. You have committed kufr after your iman. And this is a very, very important lesson and incident that is extremely pertinent to the world that we live in, that my dear brothers and sisters, we believe in something called decency and sanctity. We believe in something called holy. Yes, certain things are off limits of jokes. Yes, contrary to many of the people who think that you can make fun of Allah and His Messenger or make fun of their prophets and their God, we say no, no. In fact, the Qur'an says very clearly to not make fun of their false gods. This is a verse in the Qur'an. We don't even believe in their gods. Don't make fun of their gods. Because what's the point? Allah says you're going to make fun of their gods. They're going to go back and make fun of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did you gain? So in our Sharia, in fact, it is haram to make fun of the sacredness of the sanctity of even a God we don't even believe in. Yes, you may argue academically. Yes, you may say, how can this be a God or whatnot? But to mock or ridicule, which is sarcasm, no, you cannot do that. If that's to a false God, how about to Allah and His Messenger? And therefore, one of the actions that automatically are considered to be nullifying of one's Islam is to make fun of Allah and His Messenger. It is impossible for a heart of iman to ridicule Allah and His Messenger. Wallahi, I mean, even to think about it, our skin tingles. Isn't that the case? This is iman. This is iman. Even the thought of ridiculing and putting down the process of la hawla wa quwwata illa billah, it's not possible. And therefore, those people in our times who are, Astaghfirullah, doing this, really it is impossible that they have iman. And if they want to be forgiven, they have to reaccept Islam. In other words, you are not a Muslim. You might as well worship an idol. If you make fun of Allah and His Messenger, you are not a Muslim. And if you want to be forgiven, you need to re-embrace Islam and say the Kalima and Sahada over again and start with a new clean slate. And this is especially important because unfortunately many of our young second generation children being raised here where there is no concept of sanctity, there is no concept of the red line that you do not go beyond, that you find many of our kids, they think it's okay to crack a joke, astaghfirullah, demeaning to Allah and His Messenger. So we have to teach them this. Now, obviously, if they're children, we teach them and we say, no, this is not what is to be done. Rather, this incident clearly proves Allah is saying, لا تعتذروا. Don't give me any excuse. قَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ. This is literally قَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ. And it's very explicit here that yes, you might have had iman, but when you make fun of Allah and His Messenger, and you say, astaghfirullah, that they have fat bellies and they have and it goes on. I don't want to mention everything, but you get the point here. When you make fun of Allah and His Messenger, the Prophet ﷺ, and you say, how can He predict, Syria and Rome? So you're doubting and you're mocking, you're laughing. It is even said that they were smacking each other. You know how when you get into a funny mood, you're smacking and laughing. So they're joking. How can He tell us we're going to get Persia and Rome? That type of attitude. So you're making fun of the Prophet in this manner. لا تعتذروا. Don't give me any excuse. So Allah Azza wa Jal explicitly says in the Qur'an to make fun of the religion of Islam, to make fun of Allah and His Messenger is something that cannot come from the heart that has iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, a few final points that we'll conclude inshallah ta'ala. One of the most bizarre plots of the Munafiqun occurred after these incidents when they made fun of Allah and His Messenger. They did all of this. One of the most bizarre plots of the entire seerah, and unfortunately we don't have that much details, we literally just have one or two narrations in Ibn Ishaq and Musnad Imam Ahmad and others, is that some of them, it is said around 14 of them, actually attempted to assassinate the Prophet ﷺ. They actually attempted to assassinate him, and it seems to be this was a spur of the moment thing that they tried, and it wasn't successful, and they just then went on their way. What happened was that the Prophet ﷺ, when they were traveling at night, so obviously there's a lot of people, he seemed to have separated, and he went on top of a valley, or on top of a cliff, if you like, and so his camel, along with 2 or 3 of the Sahaba, was on a precipice, was on a dangerous location. So Ammar ibn Yasir was there, and Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman was there, and so they narrate that in the middle of the night, on one of the nights, we saw around 14, 15 bandits with their faces covered. We didn't recognize them. They came and they charged the camel of the Prophet ﷺ, and Ammar and Hudhayfa didn't know what's going on. They were protecting and whatnot, and the Prophet ﷺ took some evasive maneuvers and went down quickly into the valley, and so they fled away. So the Prophet said, do you know who they were? To Ammar ibn Yasir. And he said, no, I did not recognize. Their faces were covered. So he said, they were of the Munafiqun. They wanted to throw me off the edge of the cliff, trying to push the camel basically into a precarious situation. And if you fall down, then at that stage, you're not going to survive. And so the Prophet ﷺ was the one whom Allah protected him in this manner, that he recognized what is going on, but it was not known who were these particular people. So apparently no punishment was given, and it was just moved on. Most of the Sahaba did not hear of this event. It was happened very quickly, and this is a very bizarre event, to be honest, and I wish there was more information, but we only have just brief narrations in the seerah about this. And then the Prophet ﷺ returns back after, we don't know exactly how long, but probably around 50 to 60 days. He's coming back to Medina. 2